torn jacket, cracked shoes, eyes that had seen too much and been seen too little. So when Officer Braddock rolled up, he didn't see a human being. He saw trash on the sidewalk, another stain on his city. And trash? He thought it needed to be cleaned up. He walked over with the confidence of a man who'd never been questioned. Thumb on his belt, hand near his taser, and a smirk that had humiliated dozens before. "Get up," he said. The man didn't. "I said move. This ain't your living room." Still, the man said nothing. He just looked up, calm, not afraid, not angry, just aware. That made Braddock mad, because how dare someone beneath him not flinch? So he reached down, grabbed the man's backpack, and dumped it into the street. Old papers, a tattered photo, a wallet that had seen better years. Braddock laughed. "This what you're carrying your millions in?" He opened the wallet like it was a joke. And then he stopped laughing, because what he saw wasn't cash, wasn't credit cards. It was a military ID. Lieutenant Marcus Avery, U.S. Army, Special Intelligence Division. And behind that, a federal badge, black and platinum, with one word stamped in bold letters, a CTIVE. Braddock blinked. His grip loosened. This can't be real," he mumbled. The homeless man, the one he just kicked, mocked, humiliated, stood up slowly. And when he stood, it wasn't like a broken man. It was like someone remembering who he was. "You ever hear of ghost protocol?" he asked. Braddock just stared, because suddenly the man on the ground was the one in charge. Avery took the wallet back, wiped the dust from his photo. "My daughter," he said softly. "She died while I was stationed overseas. I wasn't even told. Buried before I got back." Braddock looked around, hoping, praying this was a prank. But it wasn't, because just then, his radio crackled. "Unit 27, hold your position. Do not engage further. Subject Avery is an active asset under federal protection. Repeat, stand down. Agents en route." Silence. Braddock's face went pale. The man he just dragged wasn't just a soldier. He was a ghost, one the government forgot to bury. And now, he was back. Black SUVs rolled up within minutes. Doors opened before they even parked. Suits stepped out. Silent, professional, with eyes that didn't ask questions. They knew who Avery was. They nodded to him, not like he was a charity case, but like a general. Braddock tried to explain. He was loitering. I didn't know. He looked like... But nobody was listening, because while Braddock had power in his hands, Avery had power in his silence, in the story he hadn't told. An agent turned to Braddock. "You just interfered with a federal counter-fraud operation. This man has been off the grid for 14 months, embedded in a laundering ring that ties to your department's union. And thanks to your cleanup, you just exposed him." Braddock's mouth dropped, because it wasn't just about the wallet. It was about what came next. Internal affairs, federal reviews, And every dirty deal Braddock thought was buried now had a flashlight on it. Avery stepped closer, held out the photo Braddock had stepped on. "My daughter wanted to be a cop," he said. "She believed in justice. Not this. Not you." He turned to the agents. "Take me to the office. I'm ready to testify." And just like that, the man they thought was broken walked into a black van and disappeared into the system, not as a victim, but as its reckoning. 2 days later, Officer Braddock was pulled from patrol, suspended without pay, and the whispers started, because turns out Avery hadn't just carried a badge. He carried evidence, names, dates, videos, payoffs, and one of those names was Braddock's own lieutenant, the one who taught him how to deal with people like that. So now the question isn't if heads will roll, it's how many and how far up. Because Marcus Avery didn't crawl back for pity, he came back with purpose and a list. You want to know what was in that wallet? Not just a badge, not just a photo, but the end of everything they thought was untouchable. And as for Braddock, he's still hoping it all goes away. But Avery's just getting started. The courtroom was quiet, too quiet. Like everyone there already knew a storm was coming. They just didn't know who it was going to hit first. And when Marcus Avery walked in, nobody recognized him, not at first. Clean haircut, tailored blazer, eyes like steel. This wasn't a man who needed help anymore. This was a man who remembered everything. He walked past Officer Braddock without blinking, past his lieutenant, past the prosecutors who thought they were in control. He didn't speak, didn't smile. He just handed over a black flash drive and said 4 words. "Start with file 1. They didn't expect what came next. Hidden recordings, phone taps, wire transfers from fake charities straight into personal accounts, racist emails, backroom deals, even body cam footage that had been intentionally deleted, recovered. And one voice kept showing up again and again. Braddock's. Him laughing as he shoved a teenager against a wall, bragging about cleaning the streets, mocking internal affairs like they were interns. And then came the moment that cracked the room in half. A private conversation between Braddock and a judge, talking about charges they made disappear, cases they fixed, and the names of innocent people they sacrificed to keep the heat off the real players. People gasped. Reporters scrambled to get the audio on record. The judge left the courtroom red-faced, didn't return. Braddock tried to speak, tried to say it was fake, a setup. But Avery was already ahead of him. He stood, pulled a worn letter from his pocket. "This," he said, "was written to me by my daughter 2 weeks before she died. She said, 'Daddy, when you come home, please make the world safer for people like me.'" He folded the letter, looked right at Braddock. "You didn't just fail her. You failed every uniform you ever wore." The courtroom was still. Even the judge's chair sat empty. The gavel never fell. Because truth doesn't need permission to be heard. And when the federal prosecutor stood up, He didn't waste time. He turned to Braddock. To avoid obstruction charges, we need your cooperation right now. Braddock's face cracked for the first time, because this wasn't about saving face anymore. This was about saving himself. He looked around the courtroom, at the cameras, at Avery, at his own lieutenant who suddenly wouldn't meet his eyes. And then he nodded, just once, because Marcus Avery hadn't just come to expose him. He'd come to flip him. And now Braddock was about to become a witness, not a cop, not a bully, but a tool. Because what Avery wanted wasn't revenge, it was the system itself. But just as the prosecutor reached for the folder of sealed evidence, the lights flickered, the courtroom screens glitched, a low hum filled the room, and then the power cut completely. Seconds later, the emergency lights kicked on, but Avery's seat was empty, the flash drive gone, and on the main monitor, a single message appeared in red. He wasn't working alone.